Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'll be chairing today's panel. Joining me on the panel is Adila Del Oro, participating via Zoom, and Robert Kraus, who is in the North Committee room. Our assessor today is Kem Wong, and our administrative personnel is Zachary Mohan. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it in the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 7 on our docket today. Mr. Mohan, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Welcome, Chair. Okay, Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Kem Wong.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Henry Dupont.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Wong and Mr. Dupont. Before we start, are there any preliminary issues that need to be discussed?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Not for me.
Thank you. Let's start with item 1. That's file number 24-2180, property address 1780 Portage Avenue. And Mr. Dupont, this is an appeal of the assessment of the property?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Wong, please begin with your evidence.
Okay. Thank you. The subject property is 1780 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-2180. The roll number, the roll year is 2025, and the roll number is 070-217-07000. And the roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $1,758,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 3 stories high. It was built in 1980, but we have an effective year built of, it was built in 1950, but we have an effective year built of 1980, indicating that improvements have been made. There are 14 suites with 7 outdoor parking stalls. On page 2 is a sales history for the subject property. The most recent sale in 2018 for $1,600,000. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location, just on Portage Avenue near Polo Park Shopping Center. On page 4 is some information on the subject property. Note on the second paragraph that 1780 Portage Apartments, they feature newly renovated studio and 1-bedroom suites with natural light, vinyl plank flooring, wood flooring, spacious kitchen, and new cabinets, blinds, updated windows, and plenty of closet space and more. So there's a few interior pictures on the bottom of page 4. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $893 to get a potential income of $150,000. We used a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $146,000, and we used a 45% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $79,000. Capped at 4.55%, we have an estimated market value of $1,758,000, which is about $125,000 per unit. On page 6 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've applied are in line with the market. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And there are some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. The cap rates were calculated stabilizing the 3 years income and expenses prior to the year of the sale. And that was done for every property. On page 10 is the income statement submitted by the property owner. For 2022, their net operating income was about $79,000. So their actual income being about $79,000 and the model being maybe a little bit higher than that at $79,995. The actual net operating income supports the model's net operating income, and the model cap rate that's been applied is supported by market sales, and the 2018 sale of the subject property at $1.6 million supports the current assessed value at $1.7 million, which is 5 years after the sale of the subject property. So I believe that sale, with the market having gone up over the past 5 years, the sale at $1.6 million supports the assessed value at $1,758,000. And I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $1,758,000.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Mr. DuPont, questions for Mr. Wong?
Would you agree there's no air conditioning in this property?
It appears that it does not include air conditioning.
Your cap rate comparables, page 8. Do you have any workups to show how you arrived at your cap rates?
On page 8, we have not provided the workups, but I can say that they were stabilized over 3 years, the 3 years income and expenses prior to the year of the sale, and that was done for all the properties.
You don't have those financial statements that you relied upon in your evidence?
No, I have not presented that.
You say you used it 3 years. What on any of those would you have used most current rents?
I believe so.
151 Hendon, did you use the rents at the time available at the time of sale?
I believe the rents that were used were the income for in the year prior to the sale.
677 Maryland, there was another sale in 2023, and why did you not use that sale?
I'm not sure. My colleague used that sale, and from discussions with another colleague, it appears that the rents were there was a high level of vacancy at the time, so I'm not sure if it would be the best sale to use, considering that the vacancy rate is fairly high and the rent of the vacant units were unknown, as far as we can tell.
Page 7, you have the brokers cap rates. So Collier's is 5 to 6. Cushman for low rise is 5 to 5.75, and then CBRE is 4.5 to 5.25 for low rise A, but low rise B is 5 to 5.25. So most of them start at 5, and you're at 4.55. So why do you have such a low cap rate per subject?
From what I've seen, some of the smaller buildings are the cap rates that being applied are a little bit low on the lower side, like the 4.5 or the 4.25 or the 4% range. I believe that the lower cap rate is appropriate because like when you use that lower cap rate, it results in a accurate estimate of value, and in this case, it does support that that statement in that the lower cap rates do result in a accurate estimate of value, because the estimate at 1.7 million is a bit higher than what it sold for in 2018, and it's consistent with what is presented on page 8 in terms of the cap rate sales of some of the smaller buildings being the cap rates being a little bit lower.
So you're saying one of the main reasons you use low cap rates because you're trying to get close to the sale price in 2018?
No, that's what the model applied, but when you look at the cap rate sales, they seem to indicate lower cap rates for some of the smaller buildings. And
yeah.
That would be. So the cap rate sales they line up with the idea that some of the smaller buildings are getting lower cap rates.
Do you have an actual study indicating the smaller properties have lower cap rates than larger properties?
No, that's just what I seem to observe that, and it's indicated on my page 8 to. And that seems to be consistent on my page 8.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Ms. Del Oro, questions for the assessor?
No questions for me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, just going back to the cap rate, is there, I think I just missed it. You were explaining, is there a reason why you're finding a lower cap rate for smaller buildings?
I can't speak to the reason why, because we haven't spoken with the owners with regards to why they were maybe accepting a low cap rate. But when we look at the analysis of the sales of smaller properties and we look at their corresponding income statements and net operating income, they do indicate a lower cap rate when you look at those two things.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. I have no questions. So, Mr. DuPont, you have your main evidence plus the cap rate study?
Yes, I have the cap rate study, I guess.
Okay. So,
terms evidence.
okay. So, maybe go through your main evidence and also the cap rate study in fairly high level. We've heard it, but need to talk about it nonetheless. And then you won't have to go through it for the rest.
Good. Okay, so my report, you can look at the first and second page. You'll see the exteriors. It does not show any air conditioning underneath the windows or in the windows. Usually that's where the air conditioning are. There's not. And then we have a page from the photo from the back, and still no air conditioning. We can go to the appendix to see similar photos to what Kim presented. And so the page, I have it page 2. Oh, all the my pages are not done properly. I'm sorry. So the appendix, after the appendix, they have the overview of the property. To the second paragraph, there's a newly renovated studio and 1-bedroom suites with vinyl and plank wood, flooring, spacious kitchen with new cabinets, blinds, updated windows, plenty of closet space. And then the next page will show the photos of the 1-bedrooms in the kitchen. So the kitchen has the white appliances, they're not stainless steel, some white cabinets, appears newer. And the bedrooms, the vinyl plank, and the old rad heating there. Bedroom has the tub surround. So I believe we can leave that be and go to our page 12. Yeah, I think it's properly numbered until page 12. So the assessor's at 4.55. We're at 5.5. Property is built 1950, but the assessor gives it an effective age 1980. Now, the effective age is a very, very subjective thing. The assessor has never shown how they do this. But it's the frame, the property is 1950, and so that it's a bit of a stretch to give it a 1980, 30 years more. So on page 12, we show the factors. It's renovated, but very small GFA per suite, 669 square feet per suite. That's including the corridors and the furnished room and all that. The other rooms, low outdoor parking, as I have only 50%. No air conditioning, basement suites, no balconies or amenities, white appliances. So the next page is the spreadsheet for our income approaches. We show the statistics on top, and it shows the parking 7 suites out of 14, which is 50%. Show the square footage 9360, which is 669 per suite. Then at top right, we show the factors. And then when we show the bachelors in 1-bedroom, we calculate the percentage cited. So the bachelors have 21% are bachelors and 79% 1-bedroom. They have no 2-bedrooms. 2-bedrooms would be the higher tenant quality, less turnover, less repair maintenance because of that. So it's more of a property that would get high turnover. So they renovated a property that does not have that good physical features, which will follow it for the rest of its life. Small suites, no air conditioning, and the low outdoor parking for suite mix. So that is going to follow the property. Line 3 shows they're actually getting $994 per suite, which is naturally relatively high for property built 1950s with the factors it has. So they are getting those rents because it is renovated. Line 13, we're stabilizing 167,000, which is higher than the assessor of 146. We're 20,000 higher than assessor's rents. The The expenses, they were kind of erratic. The utilities went from 10,000, 26,000, 9,400, or no water for 2022. So we decided to use the assessor's expense ratio. So we use 45%. So our net income is 91,665. So when we apply cap rate 5.5, we get a value of 1,666,6. So rounded 1,667,000. Slightly higher than the sale price. They bought it with the intention to renovate. Now they renovated. They're charging the rents. The market is pushing back, and they had 7.5% vacancy in 2022, but we stabilized at 2.6%. So we were quite generous on the vacancy there also. But that's what they are getting. So the intention to renovate what they obtained is what we produce in value now. And we have the next page, the repair maintenance, but there again, we agree with the assessor's expense ratio. That's my report. Thank you.
Did you want to go through your cap rate study quickly?
Yes. So I'm going to find that. I do know we should go to page 12 if and when you find it.
Okay.
Okay, it's open. So page 12, that's the list of our 6 comparables. And after each one, we have the income approach, the workup for each of those cap rates. And then the 2 most important ones, the ones that have the larger properties and the ones that would have been bought by professionals and done in a professional way is 150 Hendon. Page 20, it shows. And then I believe it shows again around page 80, 88, something like that, where we have 10 pages of documents to show the financial statements and the RTB orders. So the property went above guideline rent increase, was approved by a residential tenancies branch of rent control. So line 8 shows it had in 2020 it had 596,000 in rents. It sold June 1st, 2021, a year and a half later. You'll see in the repair maintenance, line 27, they increased the repair maintenance from the 50,000 to the 105, 114. So they did some improvements, and then they applied for an increased RTB. They obtained an increased RTB, and they got 712,182, and that's what shows on the questionnaire and the RTB orders also. And that's what we used to rent, and that rent increase came into effect on the date of possession. And they had applied naturally a few months before. So at the end of their year-end 2021, they would have been using that to apply to RTB, because what they give to RTB is 2 years of financial statements. So shortly after that, they applied, and then they got the approval 4 or 5 months later. We got the comments at the bottom that they're applied for above guideline rent increase. The orders came in effect October 21st. And in 2021, IE is a partial year, and the purchaser stated the potential gross rents were 712,182. And in 2022, IE shows that they obtained 709,313, slightly less than the approved rents, which would mean that they're very little discount and our vacancies that we're able to push through those rent increases to the market. The next one, 2290 McPhillips. That's a newer property built 2015. They put up for sale October 2020. The 2019 statements, the rents that they had, line 3 is shown there, 1,445,000. We stabilized 1,649,000 because the purchaser increased the rents by 24.5% after purchase, which was signaled that the rents were below market to start with. So we use a CMHC market rents. So we applied the market rents on that to get the rents for a stabilize. The remainder, the parameters, it'd be very close to what the assessor has done when they have given us the income approach when they do rebuttal. So the only thing we disagree with the assessor is the fact that we put in the market rents, whereas they use the older rents a year prior to the sale, and they don't use the market rents. The page 22 shows how we arrive at those rents with the CMHC calculations. And at the bottom of the page 22, we show the information on the new rents by the purchaser, shows that the increased rents by 24.5%. Page 23, we have the stabilization, the repair maintenance on a site-specific basis. And the documentation for that cap rate would be starting around page 90, another 10, 12 page of documentation for that. So based on those cap rates that we had, we came to a cap rate conclusion where we have the cap rates on 0.25% increase at page 24 as our conclusion of the cap rates. So 2005 plus, we give it a range 5 to 5.75. Now the newer property we have 2390 McPhillips is 5.59, and Hendon was 5.5, something like that for 1970s. Nevertheless, we go lower than the cap rate on McPhillips, and we start at 5, and then we go by increments of 0.25% to the next age group, 1990 to 2004, and another 0.25% increase for the next age group, 70 to 89, and 5.75 for 46 to 69. Those age group follow the CMHC age groups that they have for their rent comparables, the rent statistics, etc. And that's usually an age group also that the assessor has used in the past. So that's how we arrive at cap rates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions for Mr. Dupont?
Yes, I guess just regarding the cap rate study on page 12.
Yeah.
It's the subject property was built in 1950, and I guess the two properties, or the property that's most similar in age would be 738 St. Mary's, and I guess you're indicating a cap rate of 5.26%. And I think the workup is on page 17. So on page 17, it's indicating that the taxes for the property are $3,000, and it was stabilized at $3,000. I guess are you aware that the $3,000 taxes is incorrect?
Yes, sorry, that was brought up in the prior hearing. We are now removing 738 St. Mary's as a cap rate comparable because the taxes were in error.
Okay. But the if you utilize the taxes of $15,000, the cap rate works out to about 4.5%. Does that seem to be in line with?
I'm not going to answer on that. We've removed this cap rate. We'd have to maybe study it further. But we're just removing the cap rate as comparable.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Kraus, questions for Mr. Dupont on either his main evidence or his cap rate study?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro,
And I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. I have no questions either, Mr. Dupont. Do you have rebuttal evidence? Sorry, I don't know.
I was giving some rebuttal evidence in the past, I'm not going to give any rebuttal evidence at this point in time.
Okay.
I would like to add, it's part of our cap rates. Also, we do show the brokers' reports, and part of the reason we arrive at those tiered cap rates starting at 5% is that the brokers are state the cap rate. Most of them are 5 to 6%. So our cap rate comes in take into consideration the brokers' report.
Mr. Wong, did you have rebuttal evidence?
I was just going to say that I don't.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you like to make a summary statement, Mr. Wong?
No, thank you.
Mr. Dupont?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. That will conclude item number 1. So we will move to item number 2, which is file number 24-2181, 1800 Portage Avenue. And Mr. Dupont, this is an appeal of the assessment of property.
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Wong, whenever you are ready.
Thank you. The subject property is 1800 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-2181. The roll number is 070-212-86000. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $1,514,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 2 stories high. It was built in 1951, but we have an effective year built of 1981. There are 11 suites with 6 outdoor parking stalls. On page 2 is a sales history of the subject property. The most recent sale being in 2018 for $1,300,000. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 are some interior pictures of the subject property, indicating that it has been renovated. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $968 to get a potential income of $127,000. We used a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $124,000. And we used a 45% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $68,000. Capped at 4.5%, we have an estimated market value of $1,514,000, which is about $137,000 per unit. On page 6 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates and some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. Once again, all the cap rate calculations were stabilized with 3 years of income for the 3 years prior to the year of the sale. On page 10 is the income statement for the subject property. Their income was for 2022 was $65,800. It's a little bit lower than what the model is estimated at $68,000, but I feel it is in line with the subject property. So the model cap rate that's applied is supported by market sales, and the 2018 sale of the subject property at $1,300,000. It supports the current assessed value at $1,513,000. Once again, the sale was 5 years prior to the reference date of April 1st, 2023, and the market has gone up significantly in that time. So I feel that the sale price is supportive of the current assessed value. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $1,514,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Dupont, questions for Mr. Wong?
Yes, your cap rate 4.5% is on the low end of the broker's report, the 5 to 6%. So what is the reason for the low cap rate?
That's just those are the cap rates that we've calculated based off of the sales that we have and the income and expense information that we have, and they may be a little bit lower than what the other brokerage reports might say, but I don't know what sales are included in theirs, or maybe how they're doing their calculations. But when you look at the cap rates that we've calculated and that the model has applied, they do seem to result in fairly accurate estimates of value. And this is, I guess, I would say a very good example of that, seeing as the value estimate is very much in line with the sale price in 2018, and actually it's probably a little bit on the low side.
This property was renovated, and your model would apply to property for all properties of that type, 4.5%. You would not have the sale price to compare for other properties of that vintage. Would you agree?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
Well, you say the cap rate reflects that it's accurate. So I'm saying that you don't have any proof that it's accurate in relation to the market, except maybe for this one because it has a sale price in the past.
Well, yeah, I mean, this one does have a sale price to sort of support maybe the idea that the lower cap rates are pretty good. But when you look at other sales of other properties, it supports that, I guess, view as well.
So how do other sales? Do you have any statistics relating to the sales and to the cap rate?
No, I haven't presented any of that. I'm just speaking, I guess, maybe from my own experience.
So when you say that they're proven accurate, you have no proof to that point.
In terms of a lot of proof in my evidence, I would say no. But it just so happens that in this particular case, the subject property sold, and so the lower cap rate does result in it indicates that the lower cap rates are very appropriate for this type of property.
And the broker's report that you quote in your report, do any of those reports say that you should have low cap rate for smaller suites, lower number of suites per building?
I'm not sure.
And when they say 5, they don't say an example or an exception would be for smaller suites, 14 suites or 11 suites or below 20 suites. They don't show that. Is that correct?
No, I'm not familiar at all with any of the sales or any of the approaches that the brokers might have used. But what I am a little bit familiar with is the sales that we've presented and the sales that I've seen in Winnipeg. So, I mean, obviously, we as a department, we get a decent number, or we get a lot of the sales that occur in Winnipeg, and so. Like I said, in my experience, the lower cap rates do seem to be fairly appropriate, and they result in fairly accurate estimates of value.
Well, there again, you said they result in accurate estimates of value. Do you have any proof to make for that statement that they result in accurate assessments?
Yeah, I haven't provided any of that, but I can just sort of state that in my experience, that's what they do seem to be pretty good.
That's all questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Ms. Adila, questions for the assessor? Or Ms. Del Oro, sorry.
No worries. Just on your page 2 for the subject sale history, I didn't hear what you said. Was the sale price in 2018?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the sale date, the registration date is on the page 2 on the left.
I have 2016 and 2023 as sale history, so am I not seeing it? Or
on page 2?
Yes, on page 2 I have registration date May 18th. Sorry.
Yeah.
May 1st, 2018?
No, I don't
Are you
have
on the right file?
there we go. Okay. That's all my questions. Thank
No,
you.
no
I
worries.
switched back and forth. Thank you.
No worries.
Mr. Krause?
Just going back to the sale, do you ever, with these properties, like I know in residential, you do time adjusted sales price. You don't, that's not something that is offered in these situations?
In these situations, no. I mean, we just list the sales history for the subject property. But typically speaking, in my observation, it seems like pretty much ever since about 2010, the market has pretty much just pretty much gone in one direction, and so if any adjustment were to be made from 2018 to the reference year of reference date of 2023, an adjustment probably would be made upward.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wong, with respect to the sale, I noticed that this property and the previous property, which I'm assuming is right next door, sold on the same day in the same year. Were they separate sales? Were they bundled sales? Like,
I mean, it's because of the same sale date. I wouldn't be surprised if they were sold together, but the sworn values there are sworn values for each property, and
Okay.
so I guess it would appear that those values do represent those individual properties.
okay. Okay, and have you inspected this property at all?
I have not inspected this property.
Okay.
That I remember.
That you remember? Okay. I guess you do a lot of them. So this is all modeled then?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Didn't look at any of the individual parameters other than just noting, you did note the NOI?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the NOI is a little bit, I think, about 3,000 lower than what the model is estimated.
Did you look at previous NOI, previous income and expense reports to see if on a stabilized basis that's reasonable?
I didn't look at the previous years to get a more stabilized number. I felt that the 2022 was a reasonable estimate and is sort of in line with I guess how the mailers that I've seen, because the mailers that we get, I'm part of the process in terms of entering it into our system, and so I get to see a decent amount of them, and they seem to be I guess decent or.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. DuPont, you may begin with your evidence, please.
Okay, so you can go to page 1. You'll see the photo, very similar to the previous property, 1780 Portage. It's the same purchaser on the same date and the similar renovations. Little thing different here is that they have a couple little what they call French balcony. Romeo and Juliet balcony. And so we show that on the second page also. Looks like 1.5 feet by 6 feet for 4 suites. No air conditioning under the windows or in the windows, so it's not air conditioned. We showed the parking towards the back. There's not that much parking. We could go to the appendix. Renovated, but I believe it has a little bit more information than the prior apartment block. In the appendix, it's not page numbers are not done properly again. But the second page of the ad just shows the amenities that it has, community amenities, apartment amenities. And then the second feature it has that it says it has modern ceiling fan. So therefore, they don't say they have air conditioning. So that's a proof that it has no air conditioning. And up to the windows and vinyl plank wood floors, etc. Now, this one shows the plan that they have for a 1-bedroom, 556 square feet. So it's a very small suite. And you can just have a quick look at it, that you can see that the kitchen is one side and it's kind of open, 14 feet or 7 feet, 11 by 7, or I think maybe 14 by 7. And included a small little eating area there. And it's a very small living room. So a very small suite, 556. Then they have the photos, white appliances, microwave, vinyl sheet flooring on this one, no vinyl plank. Then the next ones are the bedroom, living room with the vinyl plank. And then, like I said, there's a bedroom with a ceiling fan there, and the bathroom with the tubs around. So that would be the appendix. So then we can go to page 4 with a cap rate, so similar to the previous one. Built 1951, it has an effective age 1981, but then you have to know that the body is still very old. It's wood frame, renovated, and then the factors are shown there for taking into consideration for the cap rate. So we give it at the bottom of the range, 5.5%. The renovations captures in the fact that they're giving it 30 years more for effective age. So the next page, the spreadsheet, similar. So they had the high vacancy, line 5, 10%, 7.8, 4.5. They're pushing the rents. The market is pushing back. I allowed only 2.6% vacancy. Relatively generous in that regards. Line 13, we have a higher effective gross income than the city by about 22,000. We have slightly higher expenses, line 31, mainly because we use the city's expense ratio applied to higher expenses. There again, the expenses are kind of erratic, probably due to some of the renovations they're doing. Not too sure exactly, but it's erratic. This higher is 56%, 45, 48%. So the actual NOI is 67,000 for last year, 2022. We stabilized at 80,000, so much higher than what they have actually, mainly because we use the actual income, a normal vacancy, and the city expense ratio. So when you apply the cap rate 5.5, we get a value of 1,461,000. And that is about 160,000 higher than the sale price. There again, they bought the property with intention to renovate. They did their renovations, and then they go out and find out how much rent they can get. And what they get is possibly less than what they were expecting, but this is what they obtained in 2020, 2022. That's the rents they have. So that's the rent that is after their renovations. So we get the value based on site specific. So I don't think we should give it too much comparison to the sale price because it wasn't with intention to renovate. So that's the final value, 1,461. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions?
Yeah, just on page 6. I guess on the top row, it says extraordinary repairs connect. Is that probably the renovations and the capital expense that they were putting into the building?
I don't think it's the suite renovations themselves. So what I guess they're doing some other work, which may be structural. We can look at the financial statements and see what they say on that. If you want more detail. No, the financial statements, it's the city questionnaire. And so they, they do state on page 14. For 2022, it's the windows, you spent some money on the windows in 2021.
Okay, so I guess it does appear that those are the building improvements. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
more of the structural there, than the windows, heat and vents, and this is other building. So it's not terribly clear what they're doing.
Okay. But I guess over the past 5 years, they probably put about $450,000 up into it approximately. Like I think the 5-year average is about 89, or let's just say 90,000 for.
Yeah.
It's just for ease. So 9 times 5 is about 450,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Krause, questions?
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro?
And I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions either. Summation, Mr. Wong? No summation.
Well, I don't know. I guess I just feel that they probably spent about 1.3 million on it, and maybe 450,000 works out to about maybe 1.75 million. So I think the assessed value at about 1.5 million is reasonable, and I guess I ask that you maintain the assessed value.
Thank you very much, Mr. DuPont.
I believe we should go with the site-specific income approach, so that they are only getting that much in rents. 1,114 per rent per suite is pretty high for a property with small suites like that. So that's all we can expect from the value. And we're using the assessors expense ratio 45%. I think that's quite reasonable also. So we should go with the income approach and not the sale price plus cost. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, that will conclude item number 2 on our agenda. Item number 3, file number 24-3340. This is 2371 Portage Avenue. And Mr. DuPont, this is an appeal of the property assessment?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Wong, please go ahead with your presentation.
The subject property is 2371 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-3340. The roll number is 070-607-54000. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $2,901,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 2 stories high. It was built in 1955, but we have an effective year built of 1965. There's 24 suites and 14 outdoor parking stalls. On the bottom of my page 1, I'm recommending that the value be revised to $2,511,000, and I'll go into that on my page 7. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 are some interior pictures of the subject property from the internet. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We've estimated a net operating income of $146,000 and capped at 5.05%. The estimated value is $2,901,000. On page 6 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've applied are in line with what's in the market. But you can see on page 7 that their actual income was a bit lower than what the model has estimated. So using their actual income for the property, their estimated net operating income is about $126,000, which is about $20,000 lower than what the model is estimated. So I feel it would be more reasonable to calculate the value using the NOI of $126,000. So applying the cap rate of 5.05%, the estimated value is $2,511,000. Which works out to about $104,000 per unit.
Okay, before you go any further, I'll ask Mr. DuPont. Mr. Dupont, the assessor is recommending that the value be decreased to $2,511,000. Do you accept the recommendation?
No, I accept his net income. Cap rate is our only dispute now.
Okay, Mr. Wong, you can continue then.
On page 8 and 9 is information on how we derived our cap rates and some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. On page 11 is the income statement provided by the owner. So the revised NOI is in line with their actual NOI, and the model cap rate is supported by market sales. The overall value at about 104,000 is probably a little bit on the lower end of the range for properties that are outside of the core area of Winnipeg. So I feel that the revised value at $2,511,000 is supported, and I ask that you accept the revised value of $2,511,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessor?
None.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus?
I just am looking at the cap rate evidence that you included on page 9. Are those similar to the ones that you included in the previous?
They're the same.
They're the same. And so now in this situation, you've gone with a 5.05 cap rate, whereas in the previous two, you had approximately 4.5 or 4.75.
4.5.
But the model has generated the 4.5 versus this.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight as to why the model would have done 5.05 here and 4.5 in the previous ones? That the age?
It's possible that seeing as the location is identical, it's possible that maybe this is a slightly bigger building, or maybe due to the effective year being a little bit different, but I can't say for certainty. But the resulting value I feel is fairly reasonable. So I think even though the cap rates might be a little bit different, the resulting value is reasonable, I feel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. I have no questions, so Mr. Dupont.
Okay, so if you go to first page, you see the first photo. There's no air conditioning in the windows or underneath the windows except 1 or 2. The top left, you'll see there's air conditioning in the window, and below that there's none. So that would be a tenant air conditioner. And then we have the other photos from other angles showing there's no air conditioning either. And the parking lot that it has there. Then we can go to the appendix. So it shows the photos from their ad. It has stainless steel appliances, microwave, but no dishwasher. A small kitchen, a little walkthrough. And then there's a living room, the next photo, page 18. There's no wall or window AC in the living room, vinyl plank. And another photo appears to be a small bedroom with vinyl plank. And the bathroom, the older type sink. And they have the corridor, pictures of the corridor. So the page, back to page 12 now. So the property is built 1965. The assessor did not give it an effective age. 1946, 1969, our cap rate is 5 3/4 to start. But after the factors and their comments, we give it 1/4% less. So we go 1/4% less in our base, which brings it down to 5.5. Mainly because we found some of the vinyl plank flooring in the stainless steel appliances. The suites are a bit larger than previous two. It's $891 per suite, GFA. It was still small, but that's not as small as the previous one. Low outdoor parking is 46%, no air conditioning, the basement suites, no amenities. So the next page, page 13 is our spreadsheet. So we have, it shows that they're getting 4.7% vacancy with the rents that they're trying to get, and it's 986 per suite. It's relatively high for an older property built in 1965. So that it would match the fact that they're doing some change in some of the suites. The factors are shown top right of the page, and then it shows the parking, etc. The expenses, we stabilize 141, and we get the net operating income 128,000, which is similar to what Cam was saying. I believe he was saying 126,000. So we're down to a cap rate argument. We've applied to 550, 5.5, sorry. And then we show the next page, the repair maintenance and the statistics that I've done and the 7 years that they've done, etc. So they've been putting money in on a recurring basis instead of major renovations all at once. And that would be my report.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions for Mr. Dupont?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro?
And I have no questions either. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I don't either, Mr. Dupont. Summation, Mr. Wong?
No, thank you.
Mr. Dupont?
None.
Thank you. All right, that will conclude item number 3. Let's do one more before we take a quick break. So we'll move to item number 4, file number 24-2791, 2425 Portage Avenue. And Mr. Dupont, this is an appeal of the property assessment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wong, you may begin with item number 4, please.
Okay, thank you. The subject property is 2425 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-2791. The roll number is 070-607-43000. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $3,074,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 2 stories high. It was built in 1955, and it has 25 suites with 16 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. Just on Portage Avenue near Assiniboine Park. On page 4 are some interior photos of the subject property. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,089 to get a potential income of $326,000. We use a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $318,000. And we use a 50% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $158,000. Capped at 5.15%, the estimated value is $3,074,000, which is about $122,000 per unit. On page 6 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've applied are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 is information on how we derived our cap rates. On page 8 are some cap rate sales. The remainder on the back of my brief is the income statement for 2022 and 2021. So the the model rent is about 318,000, which is a little bit higher than what they're actually getting, but it's fairly close, and the model rents are supported by rent comparables as well. But when you look at their expenses, they are a bit on the high side. When you look at their repair and maintenance, the repair and maintenance are about 3,000 per unit in 2022, and about 2,000 per unit in 2021. So it appears that there probably is some capital in those repair and maintenance figures. So I think using the model rate at 50% is reasonable, especially considering that the property is improved and well maintained. So the model cap rate is also supported by market sales, and when you look at the assessed value, which works out to about 123,000 per unit, it's supported by market sales of, say, a 32 Arden and 150 Hendon in my cap rate study, which is about 125,000 and 116,000 per unit. So the assessed value is well supported, and I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $3,074,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. DuPont, questions for Mr. Wong?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krause?
No questions, thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Wong. I was following along on your page 10, sorry, which is the statement of earnings and loss. You mentioned that the income, I'm just trying to find the comparison line. So the 2022 311 figure on the income statement there, that's equivalent to your effective gross income?
Sorry, on what page?
Your page 10.
Okay, page 10.
Compared to your model.
Yeah, that would be equivalent to the effective gross income.
Okay. So the model is $7,000 higher, like not fatal, but a tinchy bit higher, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is a little bit higher.
Yeah. Now, what is this income loss before undernoted items? What's that number?
That is the net operating income.
Before undernoted items. What does that mean?
I'm not sure, because I think this is all that was given to us.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any undernoted items.
No, I don't believe that anything else was given to us. Sometimes they have other noted items in their own system, but in terms of what they submitted to us, I don't know if any more than this was submitted.
Okay. And in looking at the expenses, that 185, that compared to the 2021, that's why you're suggesting there might be some capital in there?
That combined with the improved sort of nature based off of some of the pictures, it does appear that there's probably some capital in there, and I'm not saying all of it is capital, but just saying that supports the 50% that the model has applied. Typically, these buildings are around 50%, and I would say renovated buildings might be a little bit lower, and so feel that the rate that the model applied is, I think it's fair.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Wong. Mr. DuPont, your presentation, please.
So we go page 1, show the photos. There again shows no air conditioning except tenant window AC. You'll see in the photos there's a few places where there's air conditioning in the windows, but none on properties below it or above it. These would be the tenant air conditioning. Then we show the parking in the back in one of the photos. Then we can go to the appendix. And so the ad starts at page 18. It's globe. Then it shows the features and amenities. Very little for amenities: security entrance, storage lockers, surface parking. Then they show their plans. So the bachelor's is shown there, 395 square feet, which is extremely small. The one bedroom is shown at 587 square feet, also relatively small. Living room is only 10 feet wide. A small walk-through kitchen, 8 feet by 8 feet, and a small dining room, 8 feet by 6 feet. Very small. And the bathroom, 7, 8 by 5, which is quite small also. The two bedrooms are 756 square feet, so that's also on the small side for a two bedroom. The photos shown, they show a mix of vinyl sheet flooring and carpet. Two bedrooms has white appliances, no dishwasher, and Go puts in some digital furniture, and those photos make it look better. And so that that photo is like for the two bedrooms, a bit larger. Then we show the bedroom there. So I think we can go back to our cap rate page. The assessors at 5.15 cap rate were 5.75. Built 1955. Then the factors we show there, so it's got low outdoor parking, 46%, no air conditioning, basement suite, small suites, showing the square footage 395, 587, 756 square feet. No balconies or amenities, white appliances, no dishwasher, and some vinyl sheet flooring and carpet, no vinyl plank. And I show 5.55, but that's a typo. It's 5.75. The age 1955, and then the next page shows that we use 5.75. Now the financial statements, I can quickly go through that because it was going to with the chairman. So page 26, you see the financial statements of 2022 shows 311,000. By their expenses, they have the second expense is bad debt. 4663, we moved that up to the income side, so that our figures would match the assessors. Just we showed the bad debt on top on the income side. So page 14, so you see line 6, we have the bad debt. So line 13 is actually 306,351 that they received. The vacancy they have is 6.6 for 3 years, 5.6, 4.9. We stabilized at 4.9. We stabilized the bad debt at 3-year average at 12.56, which is less than the actual for that year. And the rents that they're getting is 10.47 per suite, which is relatively high for 1955 building. Globe spends money upon turnover. They don't renovate it all in one shot, but other apartments do. Is they do it on a recurring basis. They push the rents to their maximum. That's why they have 4.9%, which is relatively normal for Globe to have higher vacancies because they're pushing their rents to the limits. So line 13, we're 309,000 versus the assessor 318. So we're about 8,000 lower than the assessor. On the expenses, line 31, we're almost the same as the assessor, 159 versus the assessor at 160. So the main difference in our NOI is from the EGI, we're 8,000 less. So the repair maintenance, we stabilize a relatively normal fashion for all the items. Repair maintenance is 1944 per suite, and that is shown on the next page, page 15. So the top lines in red are usually the what we consider capital improvements, except if it's done like a roof, we will allow roof repairs, but we will not allow roof replacement. So they put in a roof in 2019. So we did not allow any of the capital expenditures in our stabilize. We allowed parking lot repair and maintenance, a small amount at 375, and we allowed general building at 50%. And the painting, we maxed it out at 225. Globe tends to have higher painting than our what we call an average that we had from studying other properties. And the main reason is that the Globe tends to paint every suite that is vacant upon turnover. That's to be able to get the maximum rent they can and to have the suites in good condition. So it's part of their management style that you get the high rents because you get the painting upon turnover. In red, we excluded some of the high items from some of the years. We excluded a high electrical and a high plumbing and a high pest control. And then we get the average 1944 per suite. So that's the figure we put in the previous page. So then line 33, we have 8,000 less net income than the assessor. And the main difference is in the cap rate. We use 5.75 to match its age is 1955. It has a negative factors, low parking, small suites, no air conditioning, no dishwasher, white appliances. So it's not renovated. It's well kept, very well kept, but it's not modernized. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions for Mr. Dupont?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thanks. And I have no questions either. So, Mr. Wong, would you care for summation?
No, thanks.
Mr. Dupont?
No, thanks.
Okay. We've got about halfway through our agenda. Let's take a quick break. If we could recess until 10:30, does that work for everyone?
Yeah, that works for me.
Sure.
Okay, so till 10:30. Thank you.
Thank
you. I'd like to call our meeting to order. We recessed at the conclusion of item number 4 on our agenda, so we are now moving to item number 5 on our agenda. File number 24-2529. This is 519 Richmond Street. And Mr. Dupont, this is an appeal of property assessment?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Wong, when you are ready, you may begin with 519 Richmond Street, please.
Thank you. The subject property is 519 Richmond Street. The file number is 24-2529. The roll number is 120-800-35100. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $3,203,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 3 stories high. It was built in 1964 and has 29 suites with 14 outdoor parking stalls. At the bottom of my page 1, I'd like to recommend that the value be revised to $1,922,000, which is on my page 6. If you go to my page 6, to reflect their income and expenses at $206,000 and $108,000, and with an NOI of $98,000. Capped at 5.10%, the estimated value is $1,922,000, which is about $66,000 per unit.
Okay, before you go any further, Mr. Dupont, do you accept the recommendation?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wong?
Go to on page 7 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 8 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. On page 10 is the income statement supplied by the owner. So the revised values, NOI is supported by their actual NOI. The model cap rate is supported by market sales, and the overall value of 66,000 per unit is at the low end of the range compared to market sales. It's even.
I changed my mind. Sorry. I'll accept. Yeah.
Okay. I did wonder about that, Mr. DuPont.
Yeah, I was going through files really quick, and then I said, "Oh, okay, I'll take it."
Okay.
No, I would like to accept the applicant's number. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Mr. DuPont accepts the recommendation. Mr. Kraus, do you have questions for Mr. Wong about the recommendation?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Del Oro?
No, I do not. Thank you.
I do, Mr. Wong.
Yes.
Mr. Wong, this recommendation is quite a significant decrease. Can you explain how your model would have overestimated the income on this so significantly?
Sometimes some properties they slip through the cracks, whether they be overassessed, and underassessed. In this particular case, it's one of the ones that probably slipped through the cracks in terms of being overassessed, and I guess I'm acknowledging that that being the case. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, like it would be I would say extremely difficult for us to have all our properties kind of have like every single one of our apartments be I guess in perfect line with the model and actuals, but we try to correct attributes and characteristics, and we try to be as up to date, and we try to be as accurate as we can be, which is kind of what we're doing here.
No, I appreciate that, Mr. Wong. Okay. Thank you very much. That will conclude item number 5. Let's move on then to item number 6. This is file number 24-1456, 516 Tilehurst Street. Mr. DuPont, this is an appeal of the property assessment?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Wong, then you may begin with your evidence, please.
Okay. Thank you. The subject property is 516 Tilehurst Street. The file number is 24-1456. The roll number is 120-800-24100. The roll year is 2025. The assessed value is $2,225,000. This is a residential apartment that's 2 stories high. It was built in 1961 and has 20 units with 12 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location, which is very close to Polo Park Shopping Center. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $902 to get a potential income of $216,000. We use a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $210,000. And we use a 47% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $111,000. Capped at 5%, the estimated market value is $2,225,000, which is about $111,000 per unit. On page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 6 is a summary of the income and expenses supplied by the owner. There were some items in the expenses that aren't utilized, aren't normally included to calculate their net operating income. So items like amortization and interest, we removed those line items, but their repair and maintenance figure for 2022 was, I would say it's fairly high. And to sort of stabilize their repair and maintenance figure, I used their repair and maintenance from 2021, which is 21,856. So after stabilizing their repair and maintenance at the 2021 level, which appears to be a little bit more normal, the NOI for 2021 is 113,000, and 2022 is 103,000, and the stabilized NOI is about 111,000. So once again, at the second chart on there, it just shows that the repair and maintenance per unit for 2022 is 3,500, and so it's just an indication that there's likely capital, or that's not a normal year's operation. But in my experience, repair and maintenance per unit might typically range from about maybe 700 to 1,700 per unit, and so I feel that their 2021 repair and maintenance figure at 1,093 per unit is reasonable, and so I use that as a sort of stabilized repair and maintenance figure. Using that as the repair and maintenance figure, their stabilized net operating income is about 111,000, which is in line and supports the model's net operating income at also 111,000. So moving on to page 7 is information on how we derived our cap rates, and on page 8 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. Once again, those cap rates were calculated stabilizing 3 years of income for the 3 years prior to the year of the sale. On page 10 is the income statement supplied by the owner. So in conclusion, the model net operating income is supported by their actual net operating income. The model cap rate is supported by market sales, and the overall value at about 111,000 per unit is supported by market sales that might range from 102,000 a unit to about 125,000 a unit. So the assessed value is well supported, and I ask that you maintain the assessed value at 2,225,000.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Mr. Dupont, questions for Mr. Wong?
Yes, the subject has lower rent is something we had here today. So it comes to about 884, the EGI. Would you believe that's on the high side, low side?
The rent that they're receiving?
Yeah.
Like the overall rent?
Yes, yeah, the overall rent, or the rent that you have. I'm just wondering whether you gave it a condition rating for the assessment department to come close to the actual rents.
Yeah. No, obviously you can have two buildings that are identical, but they can perform differently. So we are able to reflect that in our system, and so that's why, like I said, if you have two identical buildings, but one can perform, like one might be renovated and it can perform high, and the other one is not renovated and it can perform maybe pretty low. So we have to be able to reflect that in our system.
So did you give it a lower rating? Do you know what it is for condition? Do you have it average, below average?
I'm not totally sure, but it is average. It is estimating rents at about $902. So it might be sort of categorized as something different than what some of the previous properties.
And then your stabilized repair maintenance is, you said you went with 21,000, and the suites are 20 suites, so that's about 1,000 per suite. So would you say that's also low repair maintenance per suite?
It might be a little bit on the lower side, but in my like normal repair and maintenance figures might for me range from about 700 to 1700. So it's kind of on the lower end of that range, but I'd say it's in the range and it's reasonable.
So you said then it's not well maintained?
It's hard for me to say without inspecting the property.
The cap rate you have on that's 5%, and the brokers are 5 to 6. This is 1961 buildings and very old building. It's 65 years old or something like that, and not well maintained. So would you agree that your cap rate is kind of low for its age and condition?
In my experience, it sort of seems like the maybe lower maintained buildings with lower net operating incomes, those are the ones that generate those are the ones that result in cap rates that are lower. So like a 5 is actually, I would say it's pretty reasonable for this, considering that it could be 4 to 4.5.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Mr. Kraus, do you have questions for Mr. Wong?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro?
And I do not, thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions either, Mr. Wong. Thank you for explaining your methodology for adjusting the expenses. I appreciate that. Mr. DuPont?
Okay, so my report, page 1, the CD photo, on the right side, the top 2 suites have air conditioning in the window, the bottom suite does not. On the left side, top suite has air conditioning in the window, the middle and bottom suite do not. So that means that it's, there are tenant ACs. And then the second page shows also another part where there's two air conditioning units and out of 6 windows, so that the landlord is not providing the air conditioning. And I would suggest that the tenant air conditioning windows are on the cheap side and probably don't qualify for the electrical that it has there. The landlords are not putting it in because it would have to be spending more money. On this one, we have page 6. The maps, aerial photo shows close up the aerial photo that small parking and is facing a cemetery. So page 7, you'll see the cemetery. That's a negative factor that it has. And then page 8 is Google Map shows that it's facing the St. James Cemetery. And then we can go to the appendix, page 18, that's the ad from Sussex. And then page 19, the amenities that it has, basically shows no amenities, on-site laundry and outdoor parking. And I show part of the internet so that the Sussex has 2 ads. One is their main one, and then has a unit 16. So it appears that Sussex gives only photos when the property is up for rent. And so the unit 16 is shown on page 21. So they show 3 photos there. And the close-up of those photos are shown. Page 22, that has vinyl plank in that living room. And then in the kitchen, I have comments at the bottom. Vinyl plank living room was vinyl sheet in the kitchen, so older flooring in the kitchen. It appears to be original mahogany cupboards, white appliances, no dishwasher. So the being original mahogany, the photo may look good, but you would be likely full of chips, etc. Then the bedroom on that unit is vinyl plank. Then we have the photo of the cemetery and all that. So we can go back to our cap rate page, which is page 13. So built 1965, has low rents, low repair maintenance. Age group, cap rate for that age group is 5.75 to 6.5. Get the low end. 5.75, and then the factors we say small suite 813 per suite, square feet per suite, including the corridors. Low parking, 65%, no AC, basement suite, no balconies. White appliances, no dishwasher, mixed flooring, some original cupboards facing cemetery. Anyway, those are the factors, and we give it a cap rate at the bottom of our range. Then page 14 is our spreadsheet. We showed some of the factors above, where we calculate the parking is 13 stalls out of 20, the GFA shown. Then the suite count, we have bachelors, there's 7 bachelors out of 20 suites, so that's 35% bachelors, 30% one bedroom, 35% two bedroom. So it's a poor suite mix, a high amount of bachelors also, so that's one of the factors that I did not show separately, but it is a negative factor that follows a property permanently. So line 13, we have 212 actual received versus the assumption 210, 211 actually. So we're very similar. Expenses line 31, we have 104,000 stabilized versus the assumption 99. Cam had used the repair maintenance from 2021 at 21,000. We went lower than that. We went 17,848. So that comes to 892 per suite, which is very low. So our net operating income is about 4,000 lower than actual. And then we have the cap rate 5.75 versus 5. So that's a big difference there. And the repair maintenance is shown on page 15. We have the 5 years. There's no detailed repair maintenance for the last 3 years. But we show 5 years at the bottom. It's 15,000, 15,800, 99, 21, and 69. So naturally we exclude the 69, we exclude the low years. We end up 17,848. That's how we arrive at that, whereas Cam had used at 21,000. So I believe our repair maintenance is reasonable in that regards. And that's what was plugged in the previous page 14. And so our value is 1,873,000 versus the assessment 2,225,000. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions for Mr. Dupont?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus, questions?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. Mr. Wong, summation?
No, thank you.
Mr. Dupont?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will conclude item number 6. Item number 7, our final item on our agenda is file number 24-3344, 530 Tilehurst Street. And Mr. Dupont, this is an appeal of the property assessment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Wong, you may begin, please.
Thank you. The subject property is 530 Tilehurst. The file number is 24-3344. The roll number is 120-800-19100. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $3,252,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 3 stories high. It was built in 1959, and it has 30 units with 12 outdoor parking stalls. You can see on the bottom of my page 1, I'm recommending that the value be revised to $2,859,000 based off of my calculation on page 6. You go to my page 6, I use their actual income and expenses at $314,000 for income and $167,000 for expenses, giving a net operating income of $147,000. That's about $20,000 lower than what the model is estimated at $167,000. So I feel that their revised value recommendation is warranted. So that results, capping at a 5.15%, that results in a value of $2,859,000. which works out to about 95,000 per unit.
Okay,
And
thank you, Mr. Wong. I'll first ask Mr. Dupont. Mr. Dupont, the assessor has recommended a decrease to 2,859,000. Do you accept that recommendation?
I don't accept the recommendation. I accept his net income, leaving the cap rate as the only dispute remaining.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Wong, you can continue.
on page 7 is some information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 8 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. And on page 10 is the income statement supplied by the owner. So to conclude, the revised NOI is in line with their actual NOI, and the model cap rate is supported by market sales and their cap rates. And the overall value at 95,000 per unit is supported by comparable sales, which might be about 100 to 125,000 a unit. So it's a little bit, it's on the lower end of the range. The revised value is well supported, and I ask that you accept the revised value of 2,859,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Dupont, questions for Mr. Wong?
No questions.
Thank you, Ms. Del Oro. Questions for Mr. Wong?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krause?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions. So, Mr. Dupont.
Okay, same routine. We'll look at the first page, see if there's air conditioning in the window. There's only a few here and there, meaning they're the tenant, the air conditioning. Same thing with the second page, etc. We can go to the appendix, and then okay, page 17, the appendix, we show the apartments facing the cemetery, a nice cemetery in front, aerial photos, etc. Then page 20 has some of the photos they put up. And so it appears to be original oak parquet flooring and original mahogany cabinets. Oak parquet shown a little bit in the living room and the corridors also. The bathroom looks like old bathroom, and then the living room, the rug, and the page 22. It appears to be the old tile floor and old cabinets, white appliances. So we can go to our cap rate page. The assessor gave 5.15, and we're giving it 5.75. Our age group, cap rate for our age group, is 5.75 to 6.5. We go to the lower end of that range. 1959 is a subject. And the factors are shown there. A small suite, GFA, 774 square feet. That would include the corridors. Low outdoor parking is only 40%. No air conditioning, basement suite, no balconies or amenities. Poor suite mix. 30% bathrooms, 57% one bedroom. Then the next page, you can see page 13. We show the statistics, which shows the parking 40%, the percentage for the suite mix, etc. So we show the rent that it has. Has a 4% vacancy throughout, relatively high bad debt each of the years. And then when we stabilize the expenses, we have 148,000, and Chem had 147,000. So believe that there's virtually no dispute on that. Repair minutes is shown. The next page, page 14, we have a 7-year average in 1905. We're using the averages excluding 2019, 2020 to calculate our 1774. So page 13, so back to our NOI, 148 times 147. So we're very close. So we apply the cap rate 5.75, we get a value of 2,578,000. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions for Mr. Dupont?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Del Oro, do you have questions for Mr. Dupont?
I do not have any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Mr. Kraus, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions. Mr. Wong, summation?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will conclude item number 7. And with that, we have now heard all the items scheduled on our docket today, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much, Mr. Wong and Mr. Dupont.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. This is my last one. So
Oh,
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
yes.
Henry, panel members, secretary, thank you.
And same to you, Mr. Wong.
Me too. It's my last one
Oh.
also. And
Oh,
I'm going
both
to
of
take a
you.
nice long rest, spend time with the family instead with the board and assessors.
Okay,
But-
thank you very much.
Happy holidays and best of the season. Thank you.
And same to you.
Yep, thank you.
Bye now.
Okay, bye.